Hello, folks, and welcome to the Democratizing SEO podcast, a podcast for marketers who seek to have a better understanding of the SEO channel in order to engage with it more successfully. My name is Austine Esezobor. I am an SEO consultant and your host for this podcast. All right. So on the previous podcast, I spoke on why some agencies have a shit SEO service because of the leadership. I want to continue with another reason why some agencies have a shit SEO service. They have too much emphasis on sales. Now, you see, the nature of an agency is that there must be more work brought in than there is capacity to handle the work. This is just the nature of the servicing industry. You simply get the work in and then you figure it out afterwards. As such, there is always the need to pitch for work. As such, there is always the need for salespeople. Indeed, the higher up a marketer goes at an agency, the more the marketer becomes a salesperson rather than a marketing person. This is simply what it is. In the early days of SEO, the simplest thing to sell, to service, was links. A marketing person didn't have to know much about SEO. They simply needed to know enough to sell it and rely on their pitching skills in order to get the work in. And get the work in, marketers did. Or shall I say, salespeople did. There is never a limit to the amount of work that can or should be brought in, because internal capacity can always be adjusted. This is the mindset. This mindset on its own wouldn't be an issue. But you see, in an environment where there is a disproportionate emphasis on sales over retention, the work that's brought in becomes disorganized. I mentioned in one of my previous podcasts that some leaders focus more on the leadership part of management leadership. The problem of this is clearly seen at agencies. Some folks at agencies use leadership as a right, a license to operate with an investor mindset rather than a management mindset. This is almost a right to not be operational, to not manage work. The goal is simply to bring work in by any means necessary and then to move on to the next pitch. Organizing the work is someone else's problem, including appointing the person who will organize the work that's been brought in the first place. It's a joke at some agencies. Time sold and time spent rarely matches. Work is sold on an hourly rate. However, internally, this isn't even taken into consideration. 2 or 3 clients, for example, can be brought in over 2 quarters without a clue of how the client will be serviced. It's all about the sales at some agencies. When a PO is signed off, who cares about the service? I dare say, if some agencies could get away with selling SEO and not doing any SEO work, they will. Marketers are encouraged to sell at agencies. SEOs are encouraged to sell the service, not do the service. Well, if every SEO is encouraged to sell and every SEO is selling, who is actually doing SEO? SEO, operationally, is left to executives and managers. Work is carried out by folks on this level, regardless of what you may have been sold. Pitch work is simply to get a client in. Any and everything said and provided at pitches is to land the client. It doesn't matter how beautified a pitch deck is. The scope of work changes. The strategy changes. The people working on the account changes. You may have detailed line items on a spreadsheet of who will do what. That's not necessarily the case at agencies. Some agencies. No matter how transparent some agencies claim to be with their SEO service, the old school approach of getting work in and then figuring it out afterwards still applies. An agency is not going to have people on board before work is brought in. They'll get work in first and then figure out how to service the work afterwards. What tends to happen during the figuring it out afterwards phase is the P&L is brought into sharp focus. An agency would rather utilize employees who have the lowest rate card as much as possible. Hence, why executives and managers are used the most. Even if you liaise directly with an SEO director, an executive and a manager will be more operational at all times, whilst the director spends more time helping to bring in more work. An SEO director is simply a salesperson in transition, not a marketer, at some agencies, in my opinion. The director is trained on leadership, that which the agency needs to win more business. The director is imprinted with an investor mindset. The stronger this imprint, the less they spend directing work, and the more they leave it to executives and managers. What work is left to them? Frankly, anything that needs doing. This includes figuring out what actually needs to be done for a client that's recently been onboarded. Why would an agency operate in this way, you may ask? Simple. If the agenda is to sell in work, the servicing of the work does not matter. You see, whilst operational work is a necessary marketing step at client side, this is seen as shit work at agencies. The sexy stuff is pitching, winning new business, showing your value with the sales that you can bring in. This is what's valued. This is what's encouraged. The servicing of work is an afterthought. Servicing work does not get one promoted. Selling does. Everyone wants to sell, and no one wants to deliver the work. When work is left to executives and managers who see where the value lies in the environment that they are in, what would encourage them to want to deliver the best service to their clients? Why would they want to continue doing what's seen as the shit work? Why wouldn't they want to escape and seek refuge of a promotion so they no longer have to deal with the shit? If this is the case, where does this leave you, the client, and the work that you have paid for? All right, folks, let's leave it there for now. Stay tuned for more from Democratizing SEO. Subscribe to the podcast. You can find it on your podcasting app of choice. All right, folks, my name is Austine Esezobor. I'm an SEO guy. I'll be with you on a weekly basis to enlighten you on wielding SEO to success. That'll do it for now, folks. Until next time, bye for now.